Hey guys, it's West here, back with another episode of From the Crumbs. Since the last episode, a good amount of stuff has gone on, so I figured I'd make a video today, and of course I want to make content for you guys as often as possible, so let's just dive right into it. So as usual, we start with the monster box on these videos, so I'll go ahead and talk a little bit about it. We did 6-star Lisa a while back, and now we have Mihyang 6-starred as well. These are kind of just test Mihyang's usability in Guild Wars and Guild Siege runes. These aren't really runes that I plan on keeping on her for raid, and I mean they're just runes that I had plussed up from when I was experimenting with some other units, so I had them on her. Her healing is really nice. She's a really fun unit to play with, of course, so I have seen a little bit of her in Guild Siege. She doesn't have any skill ups, but I figured 6-starring these units and getting them ready for raid, as I mentioned in the last video, would be fairly useful, and she's got usability in other places too, so I don't mind having her 6-starred at the moment. So we've done a fair bit of Guild Wars and Guild Siege lately, so we've been really working toward getting these extra Ifrit pieces, because we're at 70 now. We're 30 away. Hopefully we get a unique Ifrit. I don't care if it's Tessarian or Theomars, but I'm hoping I don't get another Amir. We'll never know about that, but I have been farming pretty hard in this guild, and I do have almost all the accounts in this guild now. We have the Leica account, Starry Nights account, as well as my account in this guild, so we've got a fair number of accounts that I know are going to farm in these Guild Wars, so hopefully more Guild Wars success, and we're winning right now, I believe, too. So Guild Siege has been going really, really well so far. In TOA, I have progressed a little bit in terms of TOA hard. We're at TOA hard 93 now. We did finish TOA normal before. TOA hard 93 is really, really annoying. I've been trying the Camule strategy. However, this is all RNG based, and it usually doesn't work. It has not worked yet for me. In most cases, either Michelle gets focused down after Poseidon, or they attack Camules way too early, and then I lose him right off the bat, which means I don't get to activate his reflect damage ability, which is the entire reason we bring him. So that's really, that's a shame right now. I don't have any real light tanks to bring in here. I know I have Xian, but Xian doesn't survive enough as the invincibility isn't permanent. And I guess I could bring Mihyang in here potentially as well in order to try to extend the beneficial effects. But I think if I used Xian as a primary tank for all this, which I very well could with her provoke and her invincibility, I think in order to do that I would have to bring Mihyang and Michelle in order to double up on that invincibility, just so I can guarantee that she keeps it, because she is on a violent set, which is amazing and for so many reasons in TOA, but sometimes she ends up killing herself by violenting out of the invincibility, or violenting into a first skill that would crit in this scenario. So I don't know, I haven't tried her just yet, but I'm considering it, since this stage is really annoying, and I really want to clear TOA hard 100 since I know I'm capable of clearing the boss stage. And I cleared the Artemail stage too. Actually, that is something I did want to mention, because I know a lot of people are struggling with this Artemail stage. And I did something like this, if I remember correctly. Charlotte was a really, really important factor here. And yeah, I couldn't have done it without Charlotte. I know I had Charlotte, Poseidon, I believe I had Bella, and then probably Mav. And outside of this, I think, oh yeah, I had the Mav lead. That was the big thing here, was I had the Mav lead so Charlotte can survive this. And then I believe I had Jean as my other unit. So Provoke basically stopped my weaker units, or the units that are going to be more important that could take more damage from the Wind Monkeys and all that, to survive through everything. And I had the invincibility as well, I believe. If I am wrong, I'll come back at the end of the video and I'll tell you guys. I do have a screenshot in my phone after I beat it, because I wanted to make sure I remembered this team for next time. But I did have to take my Charlotte off of a damage build in order to have her do this, which is not, terrible. I just put her on Magic Knights runes, actually. I showed you guys a while back that I built a Water Magic Knight for the Artemail stages. I literally just slapped those runes right onto Charlotte. Pretty decent runes, okay amount of HP, she's got some nice speed and really high accuracy. So she's capable of, putting down all her CC, which was nice, because that's why we wanted her here, is just to put on that glancing, to have all those chances to stun. And And yeah, and she did really well here. It was like second try or something. I was able to get that done. Um, I tried a similar thing here with Charlotte. The problem was RNG really has to be on my side. I have to get those stuns. Like the stuns have to land, and they just weren't landing with Charlotte. And Charlotte with those 3 hits was managing to crit at least one out of the 5 units each time. So she was triggering Ragdoll's passive. Not to mention she can get focused down pretty early if I lose a Poseidon. So I was pretty irritated about the TOA Hard 93. So I have been taking a break from it. It's a little bit frustrating. In the meantime, I'm doing this team in Giants B10 because, like I mentioned, I am missing out on the Charlotte, so we'll go ahead and do a run here. I have been getting really, really lucky with runes lately. I powered up a Fatal slot 1 I want to show you guys. Some people might not be very impressed by it, and that's completely understandable just because I know for me, runes that are really, really exciting might be some, runes that some people sell. But I think it's a fairly decent rune. It was a purple Fatal slot 1 that rolled 2 max rolls and 1 roll that was 1 less than max roll, and then it rolled into another good substat on top of all that. So it's a really good attacker rune, and I'm super excited because it's like I feel really, really defeated, and I'm sure you guys do as well when you hit these points in Giants or Dragons or Necro, wherever you happen to be farming, when you farmed for hours and hours on end and you don't have one thing that can really go show like all the work that you've put in for the day, and really the only thing I look for, and this is just my my mind trying to be realistic and justify the lack of runes sometimes, but I'm only looking for one usable rune per day, like one okay to pretty good rune per day, and that's about all I really hope for out of Summoner's War. And if I could get one good rune per day, then at least there's some solid progression happening, at least one rune that I can use on some unit somewhere, or is just good enough to keep until I find a unit that needs that rune, right? And so far I've pretty much achieved that, farming 300 to 400 crystals a day some days, and farming under 100 crystals other days, just relying on the free energy. You can see that team was it was okay. It wasn't super fast, but it works while Charlotte's off of her runes. I want to show you guys this Fatal rune because, oh man, I was super excited. This is not the rune. Is this the rune? It's one of these Fatal runes that was purple. But I believe I'll know what it is when I see it. This one right here. Oh my god. So it started with 6% crit rate. I think 6. It was 6 crit rate, 7 crit damage, and 6 attack. And the way that it rolled was max roll crit rate, so 6% into crit rate, 7% into crit, or 6% into crit damage, and then 8% into attack, and then it rolled a max roll into speed on top of that. Like I said, I know some people are going to have their crazy 30% attack, 20% crit damage, whatever, some insane rune that's better than this. For me, this is a really, really exciting rune. A rune I could use on Lucian, a rune that I could use on pretty much any damage dealer, and a rune that's ready for grinds because it's rolled sufficiently into crit rate and crit damage that it would be worth it to put grinds into attack, put grinds into speed, a really nice core rune. It's got a built-in resistance, which is a little bit of a bonus too, so that's really, really nice. But I was super, super excited about this rune, and I still really am. I have no idea who I want to put it on because I'm kind of scared to mess with it. And I have a few runes that are like, pretty okay slot 1 runes. It seems like slot 1 is my best slot in terms of runes so far, and of course, much like other people, I've been having difficulties finding, the slot 4s. I do, however, have a lot of crit damage runes that I don't use. I'm probably going to go through these soon and sell them. Most of these are actually 5-star runes. I'm sad to say that on most of my damage dealers, a lot of my core damage dealers, I've ended up putting 5-star runes on them. I'm trying to find some examples. She's not a core damage dealer. Let's see. I mean, even Rakan. So it seems like most of my damage dealers end up on like subpar runes, like this one right here. It's hard to replace because I can't find that much crit rate and accuracy on a slot 4 crit damage rune anywhere, and I don't know, I'm constantly fighting my other runes for stats. But you can see my slot 1 on most of my units is pretty good, So I have no shortage of slot 1s currently, but I am looking for crit damage slot 4s. Ignore that rune on some of my units, just because I don't know, it's difficult to find the crit damage slot 4s. Also, I've been farming dragons too. I'm kind of back and forth between giants and dragons, so I know I'm farming multiple dungeons at the same time. It's mostly so I can keep my interest up in the game. I don't ever want to get distracted or bored of the game at any point in the day, or bored of the tedium of the farming, because of course I want to constantly farm so I can make that progression. So if I know I'm going to be able to farm a lot and just grind stuff out in a day, then what I'll do is I'll go into giants, because the runs are faster, because I just want to destroy giants. I want to get those better fatal blade runes for my damage dealers, and I want to start looking for those really fast swift runes for my raid cleansers and healers. So I'll just grind it out in giants. If I know it's going to be a slower day, or I'm going to have other things I need to do in the day, I'll be running dragons B10, just because the dragons B10 runs are twice the length, so I don't have to give the game as much attention. My team is actually a tiny bit safer than this team in dragons B10, so I don't really have to worry or stress too much about the team surviving, and I don't really stress about the team surviving in giants either. But in dragons B10, it's almost 100%. It's almost there where it won't fail. So I really don't have to worry too much about dragons. And also, like I said, it has a longer runtime, which means I don't have to give the game as much attention, so I can kind of do it in the background. And that's allowing me to get some violent runes passively. I'll go ahead and show you guys my violent runes after this run if you guys are curious. But like I said before, I'm not really stressing about violent runes. Violent runes are one of those things that's like it's like a perk. You know, it's like a bonus. It's a set that's a bonus to have. Now, if you could achieve the stats on your units, your core units, units that could benefit from violent, units who benefit a lot, like huge benefits from having turn advantage, and you could put them on violent and still receive the same amount of stats as if they were just on swift or on some broken sets. Maybe if that rolls high rolls and then goes to speed. That's a really awkward rune. I really want to get Mihyang runed up though. Having the violent set is amazing if you can still achieve the stats, which is why it's kind of like a bonus rune, because you can't really count on those violent procs. Violent procs are just like, it happens and you're like, wow, that's amazing. Those 2 or 3 scenarios where you get that crazy violent proc in PvP, when you see a unit just solo a boss because it violence 7 times, those are the times where it's like, it's so nice to have violent, but it's just kind of like a bonus, and it's kind of like a safety net sometimes. It can't really be a safety net because you can't rely on it to hit the violent procs, because sometimes it feels like like 50% violent proc rate, and sometimes it feels like it's 0%. Sometimes you're like, please Faye, violent proc, so I can please strip this Rakan and then ignore defense or break defense on him. But you can't always rely on those violent procs because they won't. Violent procs seem like they fail you sometimes when you need them most. I'm sorry, that was my bad. I forgot to put my phone on Do Not Disturb, so I received a text, so I had to cut that little part of the video out. What I was saying about violent procs, though, is any point in time that you really need them to work, they'll probably let you down. But I feel like if you can afford to put them on a unit, or you can put them on a unit without destroying what the unit is meant for, it's really, really worth it. So having the violent sets, like I said, is going to be a bonus when I can afford to use them. But anyways, I'll hop right in and show you guys these runes. So this rune is fairly decent. So I believe this is a purple rune. Yeah, I love having this new reappraise window where you can see the original stat type. So this rolled really well. Attack percent that rolled into crit rate, speed, and then eventually rolled into HP. It didn't touch flat defense, which was great. 1 less than a max roll on crit rate, 2 less than max roll on speed. So the rune is pretty efficient, and it's a nice rune because on attack percent, those 2, 4, 6 slots are usually pretty difficult to get the substats you want on it, and it has 2 really good substats and 1 substat that's okay if HP's good on everybody. And like I said, it has high crit rate, so crit rate's usually something that's difficult to find on an attack percent rune, so it's decent to have here. But it's one of those runes that I'm probably going to hold on to for a long time, just because even though it's not an insane rune per se, yeah, I can grind crit damage, I can grind out the defense for crit damage, I can increase the HP and the speed, I can do whatever to it. I think that it's just going to be one of those core runes that sticks around regardless, because it's going to be hard to find crit rate and speed on enough of the other runes where that's going to have to make up for it. Now, I'm just going to go through all my violent runes, because I know some people sometimes are curious about what runes people keep, and I've talked about in the past a lot, runes to keep and what runes you get rid of and what runes you save for later for unknown purposes. Like this rune, it's kind of weird. It doesn't have crit damage, it doesn't have speed. It does have high attack, and it has crit rate and accuracy as well as some HP on here. So when I look at this rune, I'm like, okay, by itself, it's not an amazing rune, but you have to think about the big picture when you're like keeping runes and when you're powering them up. This is going into more of a lecture than into a progress update, but I keep these kind of runes because I don't know if maybe I'm going to hit a set of violent runes, or if I'm going to have maybe another slot that has a lot of crit damage and it has a lot of speed and it has a lot of other stuff that I need, but it's missing all these core features. Maybe it doesn't have crit rate, maybe it doesn't have a lot of attack, and so this rune can bring a lot to a set just by having a lot of attack. It has some HP, it has some crit rate, even has some accuracy for certain units that need to land. Whatever. He was a rune where I looked at and I was like initially disappointed. This is a potential Mihyang rune. Am I gonna put Mihyang on Violent? Maybe, maybe not. Mihyang is a cleanser, but only a backup cleanser. She's not a core cleanser, whereas Lisa will be a core cleanser. But this rune would be too slow for Lisa, as like I said in my last video, I do want Lisa around 220 to 240 speed. If I put her on Violent, I want her really, really fast still. This rune could be good, maybe. I got a lot of runes that are like awkward, like this rune too. Crit rate, attack, accuracy could be good, could be bad. A lot of these, it depends on how it rolls, and for the most part, I keep these runes because they can potentially roll well, and because I can sell them if I don't need them. Now, this rune is just too much on the border, but I'm just giving you guys a little bit of a look into what I've been keeping. This rune is a pretty decent rune. Just so you guys have an idea of what I'm keeping and what my progress is like in terms of violent runes in my box. I get awkward runes like this all the time where it's like, it's a violent rune and it's got defense in slot 2. Now if this was HP in slot 2, I feel like it'd be a lot more versatile. I'd feel a lot more okay about putting this on a damage dealer like the Water Kung Fu Girl, or if I use Dark Kung Fu Girl in raid ever, maybe in a Rift Beast team and I need a tankier version of her if I need to hit some stats. But it's just so awkward with a defense slot 2 because you're not really going to put defense-based damage dealers on Violent, or at least I wouldn't. So I got a lot of these runes. I got a lot of runes that have, like this rune, so much potential to be like a Zhang Fei rune if it goes high into speed and HP. And I was so defeated because I went on a powering up spree where I powered up like 5 or 6 runes on my account. And guess what? Flat HP, flat HP, flat HP. And I've noticed that a lot lately, and it is so demoralizing when you go in and you've got this rune and you know how exactly how it's going to roll, or exactly how it could roll for it to like just change your game. And like this one, flat HP, it goes right into whatever flat stats there and just destroys your hopes and dreams. And that's been happening to me quite a bit lately, which is why you'll see a lot of runes in my box that have high potential but are not touched, just because, I mean, like look at this, flat attack, and then into attack percentage, just rolled in just the wrong way to like put you in a bad mood. So I have a lot of runes that I haven't powered up. I've got a lot of runes that I haven't reappraised because I don't have reappraisal stones. I haven't built elemental Rift Beast teams yet, even though that is something I definitely should start sinking time into at some point, just because getting those weekly 3 reappraisals could mean the difference between whether or not I progress. So maybe I'll start looking into that within the next week or so. I'm still looking for runes. I mean, even this is really pushing it for a rune I'd want to put on a raid monster, but 16 speed violent rune that has some resistance on it. It's like, it's a really, really rough rune, but it has high speed, so it has some potential. But anyways, I got a lot of weird, awkward runes like that that I've been keeping lately. And yeah, that's about what my rune box is looking like. My monster box is looking the same as ever. Something I do want to talk about though, I've been doing my research on these twins since the event ended. We were skipping back and forth between monsters and runes, I know, but I got really excited about her because when I finished up the event, I got no Lucian, of course. I didn't expect to get a Lucian. I knew the event wasn't going to show me any Lucian. But she was the only monster in that list that I didn't have, and I've almost finished up all my Wind Net for, so I went ahead and picked her up, the Wind Chakram Dancer, because I already owned the Wind and Water Boomerang, so I didn't have a Chakram Dancer to really activate them, per se. So I went ahead and I picked her up. So now I can use the wind boomerang and the water boomerang together. And I was doing some research, and she's a lot better than I thought she was at first glance. I looked into her passive, attacks 2 times to ignore all damage reduction effects, and then increases the damage of her skill based on the amount of beneficial and negative effects the enemy has on them. So even if they got 5 buffs, maybe they have a defense buff and a shield and immunity and anti-crit and all this kind of stuff, and you just attack right through it. You know, you slice through enemies like butter, you ignore all their damage reduction. I think it's great, and you're increasing damage based on the number of beneficial effects they have as well. I think she's pretty overpowered in terms of a nat 4. I mean, really high damage, potential damage output. So I have her, and I have the wind boomerang, and I have the water boomerang, which the water boomerang, in my opinion, is the strongest boomerang sister, just because her damage increases based on the enemy not having negative effects. I'm sorry, not having beneficial effects. So if they have no beneficial effects, then you do even more damage to them, which is why she's really good in dragons as well. And she takes less damage from enemies that do have beneficial effects. So I feel like she can synergize really well against enemies that have beneficial effects, because you're doing more damage based on her passive. Because the cool thing about the boomerang warriors and the chakram dancers are that they share each other's ability-based or skill-based passives, right? So the passive on this skill being the damage increasing. You know, when they attack with the boomerang warriors are also going to deal additional damage, or are also going to, ignore the enemy's beneficial effects that would reduce damage. So when teaming up with the boomerang warriors, you're going to see really big numbers, and their multipliers are already really good, and they already attack together. So for most team up attacks, you're going to see a total of 1,000% multipliers. You know, 300 from her and maybe 370 times 2 from her. Just a really vague small example talking about you're going to see huge multipliers. So putting really high attack on these units, getting them to move a lot, putting them on violent is going to be really good. I want to build them because the big reason why I mentioned the Wind Chakram Dancer is her third skill. Since it ignores the damage reduction effects, the Giants B10 Golems and the mid-boss, you know, who have this effect, and we'll get to the mid-boss just so we can talk about him, reduce damage when they're below 50% health. These Golems and the waves, as well as the mid-boss. If the unit is below 50% health, I believe it is, and we'll check the passive here when we get to the mid-boss, then it starts to reduce all damage. Now, when using the Wind Chakram Dancer, you don't have to worry about that. Your units will, or your Chakram Dancers and Boomerang Warriors that attack together are going to not care about this passive here. And you can see reduces incoming damage by 40%. So you're losing 60%, or you're losing 40% of your damage when the HP of that mid boss goes below 50%. And it's pretty easy to get the mid boss below 50%. And you can see immediately my units start hitting like a wet noodle. You know, hitting for less than 10k with most hits. So some even less than 5k. And so the mid-boss speed will go a little bit faster. And the reason I'm mentioning this is because I want to play around with new units for Giants. Apparently they're really fast. Apparently they're really powerful. I've seen quite a few different videos of other people runing them up with their best runes, just trying them out and seeing what kind of damage output they have. Also, they're really good for Guild Wars. They're Nat 4s, so they're usable in Guild Siege and the Nat 4 towers, and they're still able to put those huge damage effects out. They could attack and kill through invincibility, so if there's Chloe defenses that you don't like, you know, Wind Chakram Dancer plus Water Boomerang annihilates it. I don't know, I'm just getting really excited because it's a new unit. It's a really graceful, flowy looking combat style that I really enjoy watching, so I'm going to be looking at building them in the future if anyone is curious. But that about wraps up what's been going on and what is going to go on this account. If you guys have any questions or comments, as always, leave them in the description below or in the comment section below. If you want to see more of this, be sure to like this video and subscribe to be notified of when I upload more of these videos. So thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you guys in the next video. Hey guys, it's West again. If If you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe for more.